In this video, we're going to talk about how New World can possibly save itself from the doom it seems to be facing. Let's face it, the Expedition Mutators probably didn't have the effect that Amazon wanted on the game. If anything, it seems to have caused more players to leave rather than to have the player numbers increase. And now we're at the time where Lost Ark has just launched, and let's face it, a lot of New World players have gone over to Lost Ark to at least give that a try. So the numbers are going down, and of course if they continue to go down, well, at some point there simply won't be enough players playing the game for Amazon to justify to continue its development. But I think we are a long way from that. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the key opportunities and the times when Amazon will actually have a chance to get more players into the game. Before we talk about that, I've just made affiliate on Twitch. If you could come over, give me a follow, give me a watch, there is a link in the description. It would be an honor to see you there. So yeah, in this video, we're going to talk about the big moments and opportunities that New World will have to at least like bump up its player numbers. And we're sort of going to do them in chronological order, of at least potential chronological order. There's a couple when I actually have no idea when they will happen. Now, the first thing we have to talk about here is the quality of the game. Now, in this video, I'm not going to talk about the overall core game design features that I think have some flaws. Instead, I'm going to do that in a separate video. So if you want to see that, do subscribe so that you actually see it when I post it. But talking about the quality of the game, well, we have February and being the bug month. Now, in the February PTI patch, there's actually quite a few good changes. There's some changes that make the game feel smoother and obviously fix some of the bugs, as well as changing some of the design of the game. Like, for example, you're going to get Umbral Shards from Outpost Rush, and you're going to get more from the Gypsum Cast and that kind of thing. Now, these are all well and good, and I like all of these changes, but these kind of changes are not monumental moments that are going to get a lot of players to retry out the game. What they are is sort of setting a base foundation for the game that the game continuously build on, rather than have players play the game and then leave. We need to get to a point where players try the game and they stick around because they enjoy the game and they enjoy the design of the game. Now, the design of the game for me, as I said, leaves a lot to be desired in some areas, but that's not something we're going to talk about in this video. But obviously they need to fix that before they actually get an influx of players. The core point here is that doing these bug fixes and stuff like that, I don't feel like they're going to get a lot of players back in. You know, it's not going to get like 500,000 people to be like playing it. It's just not going to happen. But they are sort of like a necessary evil. It's sort of like medicine month, so that's what they're doing right now. But for me, the first real thing that is actually going to get players back interested into the game are going to be PvP arenas. Now, we know PvP arenas are coming. We know that they spoke about them in the January dev talk, so we know that they're coming probably relatively soon. If I was a betting man, I'd have to say that the next thing we're going to get in March will be the Blunderbuss, and then I think either in April or May we will actually get PvP arenas. Now, for me, that's a big opportunity because I think a lot of players who played New World were probably playing for the PvP and the small scale like skirmishes, which at the minute it's actually very difficult to find in the game, and these PvP arenas will be a great opportunity to show off what I think New World is actually best at. But really, this is all going to come down to like the modes that they have on offer. If, for example, they don't do something like a ranked mode, then a lot of players are just simply not going to be interested. They have said that they're going to start off with like a basic version of it and then expand upon it. Well, I'm not necessarily sure that sounds like a good idea to me. I'd rather have them have like a fully fledged proper game mode system that actually works and people are going to enjoy, and just wait a little bit. But we may be jumping the gun a little bit with that one. Personally, I hope that they do like a gear equalized or gear neutralized system, a little bit akin to like Lost Ark at the moment. A lot of players seem to be enjoying that, so we know people seem to consider that a good thing. And for me, gear equalized PvP arenas would be a good like separate game mode from the open world PvP and from the war PvP. It would really be a true show of skill, which is sort of bad news for me because I don't think I'm that good. But for me, PvP arenas are the first core feature that I think could get players back. It won't be the biggest opportunity that New World's going to have in the next year or two. For that one, I think its biggest opportunity is actually going to be a expansion. Now, we know that they're essentially going to be working on expansions, and that's the sales model because they're going to sell you the core game and then they're going to sell you like these expansions. Now, in an expansion, we're likely going to get a level cap increase, new zones, new modes, all that kind of good stuff. And I'm pretty sure Amazon will have some plans up the sleeve that they will want to drop out for an expansion. Now, an expansion could be absolutely great for New World as it will cause a lot of press hype and a lot of player hype. This will be its one big chance to get players back. But they will have to show that they have learned from their mistakes, and that includes fixing a lot of the game design issues that a lot of players have. If they just release the same game as what the core game was, with just like more levels, more dungeons and that kind of thing, I don't necessarily think the game would do well. More of the same is not exactly going to be successful because we've seen what the core game has done and we've seen how many players are playing. But an expansion is just going to create that hype moment for Amazon to show off that they've learned their lessons and that the game is actually good now, now. But Amazon need to be careful because they need to be warned that you'll get a second chance, but a lot of players will not give you a third chance. So as I just said, we're going to get bug fixes first, but I don't think that's going to bring players back. We're then going to get PvP arenas, which will probably bring some players back depending on what it is. Then we'll probably get an expansion, which will be like one core moment to really show off that it's actually a good game. But beyond all of those, there's some things that they could do at any time, and I'm not sure when they would do these. For example, you could offer a free trial. Maybe you'll let players play up to like 1 to 25, and that's when like a lot of people say that the game is good at that point, so that would be a sensible thing to offer. You'd obviously have to implement something where bots can't just make those accounts and just, you know, abuse it and then do it again, so they wouldn't be able to trade, not on the trading post and all that kind of stuff. Offering a little free trial like that would be a nice little like PR bump and a nice little marketing bump. I would say that a free trial is actually like relatively likely. It's just probably a case of when rather than if. The when could easily be several years from now. It might not be something that is offered anytime soon. Now there's obviously something more dramatic they could do beyond just a free trial, and that is to make the game free. We're seeing the success of Lost Ark, which is a free to play game. They could very easily say, okay, we're going to try and replicate that. Personally, I don't think this is very likely, at least in the short term, because they spoke about their sales model, how they wanted to sort of replicate Guild Wars 2 with the selling of the expansions. And I sort of suspect that they'll do it like Guild Wars 2 does, which is basically, I think they essentially make the original game free and then you only have to buy the like latest expansion to play. But whether or not that includes having the core game as free to play for everybody and only then having to buy the expansion, I don't really know. They might do something like that, they might not. But if they ever decide to just make the game free to play in the traditional sense, well, it actually would give them a few opportunities. Number one, it would give them the opportunity to change their cash shop, because we've seen from Lost Ark that a little bit more of an insidious cash shop is easily ignored if your game is free to play. And number two, obviously it would bring like a new player base into your game. Personally, for me, I think going free to play would essentially be the panic button. It's pretty much the last resort that you'd want to see, and it would almost be accepting that what they currently had wasn't working. But one thing they need to keep in mind is that actually just having your players play your game for free might not be enough, because quite frankly, we know that over 1 million players bought this game at launch and they were all playing, and we know that most of them are currently not playing. Now to them, the game is effectively free because they've already paid, so those players you need to win back rather than win new players, and going free to play isn't really going to change their mind. Yes, going to free to play would get you some new blood and it would get you some new PR, but it's not going to win back those players that you lost because they didn't enjoy your game's design. Now there's another thing that I don't think would affect like the PC numbers, but could actually happen, and that could be a console port of New World. Now New World at the moment has very basic controller support. In fact, on Steam it actually just downloads a profile for you and that does most of the work. I don't think the game itself really has that much inbuilt control. You can sort of walk around and maybe do very basic things, but really it's the Steam profile that's doing all the work. But as the game is an action combat game, I could see this working well on consoles. I don't think consoles would necessarily be able to play with the PC users because, you know, mouse and keyboard with muskets and all that kind of stuff, it would feel like really unfair for the console players, I think. But then again, you could do like auto targeting systems and all that kind of jazz. But for me, you'd probably have to tone down the difficulty to account for the like lack of movement availability in the controller. But I'm personally not ruling this one out. Again, it would cause a lot of interest in the game and it might cause a lot of console players. Obviously, it probably wouldn't affect PC that much. So long story short, well, first we're getting Bug Month. I don't think Bug Month is actually going to really do too much to the player population. Secondly, which is I don't know when they're going to do this, but they obviously need to do it, which is to fix the game design's flaws, which like people have issues with, because quite frankly, it's now demonstrably not worked. A lot of the game design that they have looked at and have tried hasn't worked. Time gating, all that kind of stuff probably needs to get thrown out because it's simply not worked. Player numbers are continuously going down and they need to fix it. But then in the relative short term, in the like 3 to 4 months period of time, we're going to get PvP arenas. That will be a good opportunity for the game to start getting a bit healthier and for players to actually come back and give it a try. I think those small scale skirmish fights are actually like where New World is really good. And then the actual big opportunity is going to be the expansion. We don't know what that's going to include, but that will be the time where players will probably give it a second chance. But once they've bought the original game and then they've bought the expansion, that's pretty much where they're going to stop. After that, it could be anything. We might get a free trial, we might get a full free-to-play game, we might get a console port. Who really knows? For me though, those are the key opportunities and the key chances that New World will have of getting players back. Obviously, as I keep repeating, the game needs to be good. It doesn't matter if you got 50 million people to play your game. If 50 million players then realize that the game isn't for them, there was no point getting the 50 million in the first place. What we really want to see before they do something like an expansion is that the game gets in a good state and that play numbers are actually slowly but surely trickling upwards rather than downwards. Once you see that as an indication, then you know your game is actually in a good state. Then you should do the expansion. Then you should do everything to get players to actually try your game. People say that the game is dead. Well, they haven't yet tried CPR. As I said, I will be doing a video at some point talking about the actual core game design flaws that I think New World has. So if you want to see that, do make sure you subscribe. Come follow me on Twitch. Like this video. Have a most beautiful day. Goodbye.